in every disaster, no matter what it is, whether you're facing a tsunami, an earthquake, a hurricane, a hazardous material spill, whatever, you need to make one decision before you make any other. And that decision is called ESIPL. And that's what I call it. So what is ESIPL and why is it so important? Because your backpack is going to support how you ESIPL no matter what you're doing. So ESIPL is my way of saying how to evacuate, shelter in place, and lockdown. So the E stands for evacuation, and we all know what that means, right? Where you're going from one place to another, but what a lot of people forget is evacuating is not only done horizontally, but can also be done vertically, because if you work in a really tall building, maybe you have to evacuate downward, or maybe you have to move up if there's some chemical spill that's gone on downstairs or something's happening where you actually have to move upward. That's a vertical evacuation. So the second is sheltering in place, or SIP. Sheltering in place means that you are essentially trying to isolate yourself from some hazard that's going on outside. So a really simple shelter in place is, let's say you're standing in a grocery store and you're about to go outside, and all of a sudden there's a massive thunderstorm and there's rain that's suddenly pouring down, and you can see the lightning and you can hear the thunder, and you decide to stay in the grocery store until the thunderstorm is past. That is a very simple shelter in place. You simply have decided you're going to wait a little bit, you're going to stay inside until after it's dry and after it's safe, because you don't want to go out when there's lightning, going back to your car. And the last is a lockdown. And a lockdown essentially means no one in, no one out. And there's lots of different kinds of lockdowns. Not only security lockdowns, which are the things we hear about all the time, but they're public health lockdowns. We've all been part of one of those. It has a more common name, quarantine, right? So what we have done during the COVID-19 pandemic is a lot of us did what? We locked ourselves down in our houses, quarantined ourselves because we weren't collecting in public spaces and communal spaces. We weren't able to go to each other's homes. We weren't able to go to restaurants. We weren't able to go to school. We weren't able to go to work. So we locked down at home. And the other kind of lockdown are ones that are not related to security issues. So like I was mentioning, a hazardous material spill, that's one of the times where you actually have a lockdown where you've locked yourself inside because you don't want to go outside, even for a minute. Because anytime you go outside, you run the risk of contaminating yourself and then bringing that chemical indoors. Much like when we were talking about the COVID-19 pandemic, we didn't want to get ourselves sick, therefore getting our family sick, so we remained indoors. Think of the same thing with a chemical as well. All right, so this first area that we've talked about, now that we've talked about ESIPL, because ESIPL is so important because you're constantly going to be reevaluating your ESIPL. That decision effectively is being constantly remade. I want you to constantly ask yourself that. And over these next 30 days, I'm going to be saying to you, remember, you might have to ESIPL. That might have to change. Maybe you evacuate one place, you find that isn't safe, then you have to go somewhere else. So how does that affect our backpacks? Well, the very first thing I want us to think about when we fill that backpack is, I want you to ensure that you have 3 basic pieces of equipment. Something that aids you in breathing, something that aids you in seeing, and something that aids you in moving. So for example, when it comes to breathing, you should have a mask. And I actually carry a N95 mask, but it's more than that. The N95 mask has actually been designed specifically to protect against smoke, because a lot of people forget that fire is the most common disaster anywhere in the world. Then the second thing is being able to see. So I actually get goggles. I actually have them where you would put them on, and those goggles will protect you so that you know exactly where you need to go. So if you have to rapidly evacuate, if there's particulate matter in the air, if there's some reason why you can't see, those goggles will protect you. The other element of seeing is you need to have some light, right? What I tell people is you should have 3 kinds of flashlights. A wearable flashlight that goes on your head like a miner's flashlight, or one that joggers use so it straps across your chest. After a wearable one, you also want to have a hand flashlight. So that's the one we recognize all the time. Those hand flashlights are going to be important to be able to look at things very specifically, like if you're in a dark room. But then the last kind of flashlight is what I call a room light. And so these ones tend to be lanterns where you can open up the lantern and suddenly it illuminates an entire area of the room, because that area specifically allows you to be able to set the lantern down, and then you have some ambient light. It orients you. You can quickly pick up the lantern and you can walk around as if you were living in the 19th century. It's a lot of times called a camping light, but it will allow you to see anywhere that you happen to be, no matter how dark it is. I've been in many instances where I've been in dark rooms, I've been in dark buildings, and I wasn't able to see around when I was a first responder, and I actually used to carry around a camping light that I actually kept in a small pouch. And when I would pull that open, it would allow me to see everything around me. So those three kind of flashlights should absolutely be in your disaster backpack. And the last one is movement, and it doesn't just apply to people who have a vulnerability, like for some reason they're non-ambulatory and can't move around, but it could actually be something as simple as if you're in an office building and you're trying to go down a long flight of stairs down that emergency exit. If you're wearing inappropriate shoes, like you're wearing high heels or you're wearing men's dress shoes, it can really hold up your evacuation. And trust me, you don't want to go down those stairs barefoot. So you want to make sure you're wearing comfortable shoes. So the next thing I want you to think about is movement. Having a very simple pair of shoes or whatever you need to be able to move around. So those are the first three things I want you to think about. Being able to breathe, being able to see, and being able to move. Those are the things I want you to think about before we put anything else in that backpack, because those three things are going to allow us to be able to evacuate, shelter in place, and lock down anywhere we are, whether we're at work, we're at school, or we're at play. This is Disaster Patrick, and remember, prepare for a disaster, and you'll never experience one.